So we'll be live in just a minute. We'll be live in just a minute. So meeting is now streaming. So you see on there now that it says live on YouTube.
Link. Yeah, I got the
Beautiful.
link. I've got it ready to share. Got
all right. So I believe we are now live. So we are live on YouTube. We are live on YouTube and with Mike Satterfield at the Gentleman Racer. I'm going to go ahead and share this link because that's usually Kevin's doing, but he's peeing right now. But what's great about this, so what you guys at home are watching, for anybody that was right on it, that has subscribed to us, by the way, subscribe, Garage.Chronicles. But if you subscribe and you're joining us on our YouTube link, what's really great about this, it's so funny, it's showing Kevin's empty bedroom right now. What's great about this is that you're basically just watching us record our podcast. So this podcast goes up every Thursday, and I think this one should be available on Saturday. But what you're watching is us recording that podcast. This will get tidied up, and then we'll upload it for all the streaming. But this is just a kind of an audio or a video component. If you are watching, you have any questions for myself, Kevin, or Mike, what you can do is you can actually just ask us right on the YouTube page, and that'll be great. You're welcome to do that, and then we'll do our best to get to that. So what we're going to do, as soon as we get Kevin back, is we'll get that started. But have you been able to share to everybody?
Yeah, we've shared.
Cool. So here is Kevin. So awesome. As soon as we stop hearing the chit, Kevin, we are waiting on. He can't hear us probably because he probably has his AirPods in. But we're about to go live, guys. So if you're with us on YouTube, we really appreciate that you're watching. Thank you for joining us. There is a subscribe button on the YouTube page, so go ahead and do that while you're here. It's just below the subscribe button. Do that. We'll ask you a couple more times throughout the way, but it would be great if you did. Otherwise, Kevin, if you're ready, we'll get started.
I am, sir.
Kevin, are you ready? All right,
I'm
awesome.
ready.
So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending when and where you're listening to us. I'm Brandon.
I'm Kevin.
Welcome to the Garage Chronicles podcast. With us today is Mike Satterfield from the Gentleman Racer and many, many other things. But before we get in with him, I want to make sure we'll just real quick say thank you to our sponsor, GripMat, GRYPMAT. If you're GripMat with an I don't know what it is, but it's a knockoff. You don't want no part of it. It probably has coronavirus on it. Throw it away. So make sure if you are doing anything with automotive or anything that you're ever doing hobby-wise, that you really want things to not disappear and slip away, whether you're working in an engine bay, you're detailing cars, you're working on your F-15 fighter jet, whatever it is, GripMat is amazing for that. They come in multiple sizes, come in multiple colors. They use them for IMSA, NHRA. They're not with F1 yet, but we'll get there. Nothing's happening with F1. But go to gripmat.com, GRYPMAT.com. Use promo code Garage Chronicles for 10% off, and they'll get that out to you immediately. They're right here in America, Columbus, Ohio. Love them. So now let's welcome Mike Satterfield. Mike, the Gentleman Racer, welcome to the Garage Chronicles podcast.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I'm really excited to be here with you.
So, Mike, you are the most popular person we've ever had on this show. I think you are you're pushing close to 100,000 followers now. Is that right?
We're getting close to about 95,000 on Instagram. Yeah, it's been been growing.
So we're just going to have to get you in a couple tighter bikinis and maybe some lower cut stuff, and we'll get you to that 100,000 person. No problem.
I've been really working on my squats here in quarantine. So maybe when we come back in summertime, get the thong out.
It's this thing. Yeah. It's like
the butt model.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm just exercising, guys. No big deal. So Mike is an interesting guy. And I know that I set a lot of our guests up in that way, but I mean it. Otherwise I wouldn't invite them on in the first place. Mike, like many of other guests, we go back, just as far as being in the automotive scene a bit and, staying in touch with each other via Facebook. We argue with each other in many different facets. But he's always a really interesting guy to talk to. So Mike, can you kind of walk people through, before we just start down the list of things that you are presently involved in, that if you're just gonna start plugging Mike Satterfield, let's get at it.
Well, I mean, currently the biggest thing that I've got going on is my my website, thegentlemanracer.com, which is basically like a men's automotive lifestyle website, kind of a magazine. We actually do a print version a couple times a year, which is a lot of fun. They're really just kind of more of a fun thing to do because I like to do print still. But I also contribute to several other magazines here in Texas and nationally. And then I'm I'm doing stuff in the apparel line. I do a lot of design stuff. Pretty much anything with car related, I'm doing it. So it's a lot of fun. I get to do a lot of crazy stuff because of the Gentleman Racer.
So how old are you?
38. Yeah.
So yeah, you're right in the same zone for us for
Yeah.
sure. How old were you when you like kind of started to monetize your hobby?
Oh man, so the website goes back to like the angelfire.net days of the internet.
Wow.
I just
Throwback.
scan photos in and then upload like really bad photos to the website. But I really didn't I pivot to almost full time until like 2007. So since 2007, this and some of my design work has basically been my full time gig.
That's awesome. So was there kind of like a moment where you were like, oh, like this is working, like this is going on?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of snowballed. Like I started getting invited to events, smaller events at first, as a journalist, which I thought was funny. Because I studied business in school. I didn't do anything with journalism, but I got invited to events as journalist, and it kind of struck me. I was at this event with Hyundai, and I was there with the guys from like Motor Trend and Car and Driver on the same wave, and I was like, oh, I guess I'm kind of in the club, sort of. I mean, I'm still on the outside edges of it, but it was.
But they
cool.
can't tell. Yeah,
no, it was great. Yeah, it's really funny. Yeah, people think we have so many employees and stuff. It's really just me and a couple other contributors for the most part, but. Yeah, it's a blast, and we get to do a lot of fun stuff.
So you are big on like road trips. I am too, but it doesn't seem like you are shy at all about getting in or on something obscure, old, or dangerous, and going quite a distance. Is that mostly just a function of like I got to create content, or is that something that you're interested in, whether or not you're getting paid for it?
No, I mean, the road tripping, that's kind of how our travel section grew. I was always really into traveling. When I was really young, as soon as I got a bicycle, I was gone. Like I was on a bicycle as far away I could go, exploring. As soon as I got my driver's license, I was driving on road trips, all over Southern California. That's where I grew up, and to Arizona, Nevada. And I mean, I started traveling internationally when I was 17, doing some volunteer work in like Central America and stuff like that. So I kind of got that travel bug. I really enjoyed traveling. So I really just never stopped traveling, I guess. Actually, this is the first time I've kind of actually had like a television and stuff in a long time because I've kind of settled in here in Texas. So it's been kind of good.
Crazy. So what's your last like road trip that you got under the belt?
So the last really big road trip that we did was we went from here in Texas all the way down to Key West, Florida, all along the Gulf Coast. So it was about a 3,800 mile round trip total. And we did that in an Acura RDX. Acura was really, really cool to loan us a car. And we went through and toured all the different plantations, all the historical spots. And it was a lot of fun. We got to kind of see a whole different side of America because I never really traveled much in the South. So it was a really fun adventure.
The RDX, a damn good car.
Very good. Yeah. Very, very good.
Now, so do you find that like, so I say frequently that like there's not really any bad cars in 2020, right? Like there's like very small exceptions, which are like, I'm sure like something old and Mitsubishi, like I'm sure there's something like old and obscure that's sitting and rotting on the shelves, but generally like even the shitty cars are now good cars.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've owned
something that you've noticed happening too.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much everything. It's pretty hard to buy a bad car these days. I mean, I've had really bad cars. I've had Renaults and Peugeots and things like that from like the 90s and 80s and things like that. And those are terrible cars in every way, even when they were good. And I mean, you can go get into a brand new Kia and it's 10 times better than anything you could buy 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, so how do you like change the way that you review, all of a sudden, is it more a comparison or is it just like what's bad anymore?
Well, that's where my content's a little different. Like I don't do a lot of like strict reviews just because I kind of figured out early on that if someone Googles, Jaguar XE review, I'm never going to outrank, Car and Driver or any of the big magazines because that's
true.
All they do is review. So I do mostly like the road trip or experiential stories with them. Like this week, I've got the Bentley Bentayga Speed. So I'm doing like a bunch of photo shoots and kind of fun stuff with that. So that's just, I mean, it's more about telling a story about how the car fits into people's lives and what you can do with the car than just be like, it's good. Because I mean, literally, you could go get a really nice Hyundai Genesis, you know, the new GV, was it the GV80, whatever, the new big SUV.
The one of the crazy,
yeah, and it'll have leather interior and ventilated seats and navigation and all the same stuff. It won't have a W12 and it won't do 190 miles an hour, but it's still a very good car. So yeah, we try to differentiate with like stories and experiences and things like that.
I mean, I think that's great personally, because I think one of the things that's lacking with just regular automotive journalism these days is the fact that most reviews are almost like just reading the brochure. You know, when I used to read Car and Driver, when I used to read Road and Track, like there was actually good writing that was associated with it. And now it's just like, oh, it's got this engine, it's got this much horsepower, like here's how many cubic feet the trunk has, blah, blah, blah. It's like anybody can look those specs up. There's not really any like substance to it. So it's refreshing to hear that there's a take like that.
Probably part of that, Kevin, is that a lot of the people that are reviewing these cars haven't even seen them, right? Like they are just generating content. Like it's just a matter, like, you know, and you and I have even talked about it. Like if we wanted to, like, you know, Kevin and I have talked about it. If we wanted to, we could take, you know, like B-roll that, you know, like Volkswagen's media site gives you B-roll of the new Jetta rolling around. Mm-hmm. And you could literally like write it. You could put up a video talking about the car. Oh, the 2019 Jetta has, you know, it has grown by 6 inches and is you know, whatever. You can go into it and you can put up one of these videos where you're essentially like reviewing it, or you're doing like, you know, a press review and never haven't even fucking seen it, right? Like how often do you see people like, you know, doing the pose in front of the new like GTI that they haven't, you know, like it's not even out yet, but they're like, yeah, they Photoshop themselves in front of it. They're like, oh, it's going to come with 264 horsepower. You know, that this rush to content is it's ends up being bullshit half the time.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of just a sad state of the internet now. Everything's about, you know, clickbait and numbers and views as far as, you know, actual, not even considering like actual like good content, who's reading it. It's kind of like the crazy thing about YouTube is you have brands that are sending a lot of brand deals to like YouTubers who are doing supercar content, but the viewers are like 10-year-olds. So, you know, how many Lamborghinis is that selling you? And I mean, it's
they're playing the long game.
Yeah, it's just a lot of numbers, and a lot of it just gets passing up and up through the agencies. So many of these agencies that run all this stuff, they just need a big number. So if they can get so many impressions, it really doesn't matter who the impressions are. I try to tell stories that people that are in my demographic want to read. So I tend to do less content than most places, but our content's also pretty mixed, because I've always felt, I don't know if you guys feel this way, I've always felt like that, like I love cars, but I don't like a lot of car people. and it's mainly because
welcome to the Garage Chronicles.
There's so many car guys that the only thing that is interesting about them is that they went out and bought a particular car. And I used to sell cars years ago, and we had this guy. He came by the dealership all the time. I always had a Ford Lincoln Mercury dealer. We had a big multi-channel dealer there. And this guy had this Pantera. And it was a cool Pantera the first time you saw it. But he would come by at least once a month on a Saturday morning. He would drive into the front of the Ford dealership, then back in, and stand out there and wait till the new salesman went out and talked to him. And then it was 30, 40 minutes of, let me show you the billet aluminum I did here. And like, that was the whole guy's life. And
he was probably so excited about that every week.
It was kind of sad. But for me, like, I find that so boring.
Honey, it's the second Saturday. We talked about this.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I've never even been one of those guys who's like super like brand specific. Like, I've owned over 100 cars of just about any type. I mean, I've had something that's close to something else. You know, like I've had haven't had a Lamborghini, but I've had a Lancia, similar. You know,
pretty close.
But
I have to ask though, because I'm a Lancia guy. What Lancia did you have?
A Beta Zagato.
Okay. That's awesome. That's very cool, actually. That's a car that most people probably don't know what that is. Yeah,
I like to catch on fire a lot. I've had a lot of weird Italian cars and a lot of weird British cars. But yeah, the Lancia Beta Zagato was a fun car that caught on fire pretty much every other week. So, but I've never been
besides
one of those guys
like the Delta
Chevy guy. Oh yeah,
right. Besides like the Delta Integrales, I'm always like a big Fulvia person. I love any of the old, the old Alpha Giuliettas and stuff like that. I mean, they're going crazy in price right now. Obviously, I remember when you could buy a Fulvia and import that thing for like 12 grand, and now they're 30, 40, 50 plus, depending on what kind of heritage and history they have. But super cool cars.
I think with Alpha coming back to the US, it kind of awakened people's memories of nostalgia for those cars again.
Very much so. I think so.
And I'm sure Jeremy Clarkson constantly saying, "You're not a real car guy until you've owned an Alpha." I'm sure that didn't hurt the street cred.
Yeah, the only Alpha I ever owned was the 164.
Oh, that's a good one too.
Yeah, I mean, not a bad one.
It was
an
not
80s.
The best one, but it's a good one. Yeah. I mean, it's the Radwood era, right? Everybody loves the 80s cars.
Yeah, it's the right thing. I mean, it's a rear-wheel drive sports car with no top. I mean, it's got all the right things going for it.
So you're saying that sports cars are best when they have no roof?
For the most part, yeah. I mean,
Kevin, are you listening? Kevin, are you?
I'm gonna agree to disagree.
Now, if you're gonna race a car, you want a roof.
Oh, I agree with you. I agree.
But if you're gonna be driving around Lake Como or cruising along PCH, you want to put the top down.
It's amazing how PCH and PCA are just so similar, Kevin.
I will take my fixed roof and air conditioned seats all day long, windows up, radio on, and I will be just as happy as you.
Your Cayman has ventilated seats now?
No, but we're talking hypotheticals here.
Oh, okay, got it. Because my Boxster doesn't have ventilated seats. I don't know if your Cayman did.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just if you have the option of a drop top, you got to drop the top. I mean, especially just again, if it's a fun car. If you're gonna go racing, you obviously want a hard top. You want the most aerodynamic, lightest chassis. But I mean,
Mike, I am buying what you're selling. You and I agree very much.
We were talking about it before we jumped on live here, and I was showing you guys my only convertible that I've ever owned was that E30 318i that I had for all of 3 months, and basically got it, was planning on doing an S52 swap in it and all kinds of good stuff. Realized I hate a convertible and sold it for double what I paid for it. So that's my convertible story, and that will be my last convertible story ever. Well, I guess besides the MGBs, but those were all flip cars, so I don't technically count.
Don't really count those,
But those are dope. I would just always prefer an MGB GT over an MGB.
I've had the MGB GTs and the GT and the regular ones too. They're a lot of fun. I had a 68 MGB GT that was one of my favorite cars I've ever owned. It was just a lot of fun, super reliable. Those B series engines are almost impossible to kill as long as you just put on like a Weber carburetor, so you have to deal with the oil and all that other stuff. But
absolutely,
great car, so much fun.
It's another one of those 10/10, foot to the floor the whole time, biggest smile on your face. You're not, staying up with traffic, but you're the happiest person in that, in that traffic.
And you feel like you're going fast.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and that's all
just
that
like
matters.
my Fiat 500.
Oh yeah. Now, my daily driver for years when I lived in Southern California was a 1969 Mini Cooper.
Nice.
Which was a lot of fun. Right-hand
I
drive.
remember you in that car, actually.
Yeah,
I think
it was a lot of fun, and it had the Webasto top, and I bought that car because I had gone road tripping across Europe, and I saw one that was parked in front of this little hotel I was staying at in southern France, and I kept seeing it every morning, and I was like, God, I really want one of those. And when I got back to the U.S., I was like, how much can I found one for like $8,000, so I just bought it and ended up driving it every day. No air conditioning, 1275cc motor, just super fun car. Open the top up and have a blast. We actually took it to SEMA in 2012.
I had a 66 Beetle that I drove for I had it for like a year, but I drove it pretty intensely for a few months. And in Southern California, as long as you're not in the valley where it's like 1,000,000 degrees, if you're I was working in Santa Monica at Volkswagen, and an old shitty slow car in the city in LA is the best.
You can't go anywhere anyway, so
yeah, as long as you're not stuck in traffic and like breaking down and stuff. But like of all the cars I've had, and I might have had 100. I don't know. I've had a lot of cars, but I've had, I've been around a lot of very interesting, very fast, very whatever. But bar none, if there's one car that I could go get back, it would be that 66 Beetle.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. I've never been a big Volkswagen person. I've had a couple of, I had a Squareback which was fun. And then I had a Bradley GT2 kit car, which I bought for like $300, which was pretty fun. But other than that, yeah, I've never been a big Volkswagen person.
So what? Where did it all start? What was the beginning?
So my father's worked on the automotive aftermarket since the 70s. He actually did technical drawings back in the day for Hooker Header and all that. So I kind of grew up with him bringing home like SEMA project cars and different vehicles and stuff. And my earliest memory of like a car memory is sitting on his lap in a 65 Mustang Fastback steering. And I just always liked going fast in cars, and just the fact that they kind of represented like independence and freedom, being able to go wherever you wanted. So I've always been a big, travel bug and, car guy. So it just kind of grew from there with my dad and working on cars. I think I was 14 when I bought my first car. And it was kind of like one of those things with dad's like, yeah, you can buy it and then you got to fix it. So I spent a whole summer with my best friend, just wrenching on it, learning how to work on cars. And that kind of kicked it all off.
That's awesome. And you said that you were potentially conceived in a Volkswagen bus, correct?
It could be. So
listen, in fairness, we kind of everybody was probably.
Yeah. In our age group, it's probably pretty common. So yeah, my parents, they had a Volkswagen bus at the time, and they also had, my dad had a BMW 2002, which was super cool, an Inca orange, which is it's the one car he always talks about. Color. Yeah, it's so good. And that's the car he drove when my parents first got married and all that stuff. So he's got a lot of good memories with that car. But they also would share a bit that I actually got to go to Riverside International Raceway when it was racing. I was just in utero. Wow. I got to go to Monterey for Laguna Seca in utero. So they did a lot of trips in that Volkswagen up and around California, taking me to racetracks before I even could get out and walk around.
So do you think that the ID buzz, right, like the forthcoming there we go, sorry, the forthcoming ID buzz, the Volkswagen electric bus that we've been waiting for forever and they promise we're getting, do you think that's gonna have it? Like, do you think that that's gonna be our generation's bus?
I mean, it will be it'll be a great car for like West Side people in Los Angeles with extra money to buy a third vehicle. But I mean, for the most part, for like where I live, especially most Americans, I don't see electrification really kicking in until they get a lot more infrastructure. So, I mean, if we had the infrastructure to really make it a usable vehicle, I think for most people, I think it'd be great. But I just had the Jaguar I-Pace and it was a nightmare. I mean, I love the car. It was great to drive, but the electrification, the network outside of like Dallas or Austin, you're just screwed. There's no help.
You're also talking about Texas, where it's known for its wide open, flat expanses. So I mean, it's not conducive, like downtown Los Angeles is or San Francisco necessarily. When you get into the metro areas, But
to his point, if the whole point, like what was great about the bus, right, was that you could get in it and go anywhere, right? Like he's talking about going up to Laguna Seca and going down to this raceway and going over here. And my parents, how, their memory of because every parent has a memory of a bus. Their memory was going to, flying out to Europe. Oh, we lost somebody. Oh, are we doing switch here?
No, I just want to show he talked about the I-Pace he had. So I just want to throw that up there. I personally really like the I-Pace.
Yeah, no, but
I absolutely loved it as a car. As an electric car, it just didn't work for me.
So the with my parents, they talk about the bus and the bus going, they flew out to Europe and spent a year backpacking and just kind of putting around in the bus. And like that in an electric car, to your point, like if it's not, if the infrastructure isn't there that allows, it's one thing if I guess like gas stations, they are along the major highways and you can make sure that you have enough juice when you get off of the major highway to get into whatever trouble you want to get into and make it back. But, if there's going to be these dead zones, and the dead zones are really the places you kind of want to go, right? Like, I think of Moab, right? Like, how are you going to get to Moab?
For me, that's like road tripping is a thing. I just did a story on the Bollinger big SUV and truck thing that they're trying to roll out. And I actually talked to the guys in depth in Los Angeles when I was at the LA Auto Show, because they were talking about how, oh, good, you're from Texas. We're really hoping ranchers will buy this. I said, it's got a 200-mile range in perfect conditions. Like I said, I know ranchers with more than 200 miles of roads on their property. Like, and you can't have a rancher be like, you know what? I can't come help you with your cattle. I've got to charge my truck for 12 hours. Like, it just doesn't work for every situation. Now, the I-Pace was great, but what I was really surprised with was even here in College Station, which is a university town that's known for engineering, there's no fast charger. There's not even a supercharger here yet for Tesla.
Wow.
So yeah, it was really, really shocking out here.
There it is, Kevin.
Tesla. There it is.
Tesla. How far in? We're pretty decent right now.
Yeah,
I think we're probably.
Is that a
20 or so minutes?
We just can. Yeah, this might actually be a record of like the furthest into the podcast that we got
before mentioning Tesla. It always comes up. It has to, right? It's like always Elon or Tesla is in the news at some point. So every episode. We hit our record the other day. I think it was less than a minute on last episode that we jumped in.
Yeah, Javad, who runs 034 or 034 Motorsports, is in Fremont, California, and he's like, "Oh, we're right down the street from Tesla," and it was boom right off the bat.
Nice.
But yeah, so I'm a big. It's interesting to have the three of us here because, as you know, I'm a big proponent of the electric vehicle. I think like most things, you know, each car has a specific use case, right? Like I'm not a rancher, right? And I know that and I also don't pull a boat, right? So, excuse me, for my specific use case, you know, getting around the city, it's perfect. Like I would never want to start being anything but an electric car. Just like though, if I'm going to drop, you know, come down to see Kevin, who's 3 hours south of me, and do a quick little back and forth, the electric car probably doesn't make sense in that case. And you know, the thought of building something that's going to have 500 or 600 miles of range realistically, you start compromising in other places, things like space and trunk, you know, like
safety, everything else. Yeah.
So, I mean, I like the idea of where, like, you know, I think Tesla is right at like the sweet spot. Like this 300-mile thing is like a tank of fuel. You can get there as long as your destination isn't much further than that. You know, you can hit a supercharger, whatever it is, along the way, and then be done and charge for the night, and then you're fine.
Yeah, I'm really surprised, like, because, you know, the big oil companies like Shell or Chevron, they're always talking about how they're energy companies. They're trying to transition to be energy companies. I'm really shocked that none of them have said, okay, cool, we're just going to put 2 fast chargers at all of our Shell stations across the country. And then all of a sudden, electric cars make sense for almost everybody then. Because there's a little town from here that's maybe 60 miles. It's got 400 people in it. It's got a Shell station. I mean, so, you know, that would make more sense. I've had that little app they gave me to find plugging places, you know, when they gave me the car, like, here you go. I'm like looking, I'm like, there's literally nothing. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And so the one in Calvert, which is a little town, it was, you know, it has pictures. You could scroll over and see what the charging, it was literally just a power pole with like a plug where you were allowed to park your car.
And that was a level 2, I imagine, right? Like a 220. Like not a fast charge. Like it was like
it was like a level 2. So yeah, I mean, that's, you know, 10 hours of sitting in a tiny town that has no restaurants, you know. So
yeah,
doesn't make a lot of sense.
And I think what we'll find, I mean, again, city wise, right? Like and that's what's so interesting to me about the you know, the upcoming ID Buzz, which I think it'll probably just end up being called the Buzz or whatever it is that like it's a lifestyle vehicle, but it's like, you know, it would be like having a slammed 4Runner, right? Like it kind of defeating the whole purpose of it. I love it. Like I love it. I love it. I love it. I think it's so cool, but I don't ever see myself owning one.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not opposed to electric cars. I actually really like the Fiat 500e. I thought it was a lot of fun. I drove it around California. Yeah, they were a lot of fun. I mean, they weren't the most reliable, but then again, they were Fiats. So, you know, there's that going for it. But it was fine. But again, it was always for me, like, electric cars have always been like, okay, dad's got his, you know, daily driver that's his, you know, whatever, a sedan or sports car. Mom's got her Suburban. And then they really want to be smug on the weekends when they go to the country club. So they bought the Tesla, or it used to be the Prius, and that's what they would drive. I love the idea of range extending. I think that works really good. I really enjoyed driving the Bolt. I thought that was a pretty good vehicle, and the range extending made it, it got rid of that range anxiety you get in places like Texas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, where there's just a lot of range anxiety.
Yeah, so my personal experience with electric vehicles is different in that, like, so I have a Leaf, a 2018 Leaf, so it's got 150 miles of range. I have a Kia Soul EV, which I trucked in here from Pennsylvania, whether or not it wanted to be here, and then I have my Volkswagen Alltrack, so my wagon, and really like it. And at the end of the day, at the end of every day, I basically get to choose, like, which one am I going to take home, right? Like, so tomorrow's Friday, so it's the weekend. So which car am I going to take home? It's most likely that for the weekend, I'm going to take home the Alltrack, because I want to be able to just be like, okay, like, throw the kids in, throw the wife in, let's go fuck off up in the mountains somewhere, right? Yeah. If there was a mountain somewhere in Ohio, but the hills. But for most, the other 5 days of the week, I find myself going, well, why am I going to bring home the Alltrack? Why am I going to cold start? Why am I going to drive it a couple miles? Why am I going to worry about it getting up to 10? I'll just fucking hop in the Leaf, because it's charged up. I know I don't have to get gas. I know I can just run it around for the day and plug it in at the end of the day and be fine. And so and then I have my weekend, like I got my Boxster at home and my wife has her car, right? Like, so we put the majority of like the miles on the electric. And that, like, just, running around throughout the week. And then for the weekend, or for the other, the longer trips, we have the other things. But, I think that, especially
great, third and fourth cars.
and
I mean, they're
but yeah,
I just think that if they get to the point where you could have one that was your only car, it would make a lot more sense for people. But I mean, a lot of people don't have either the disposable income, the interest in cars to have more than multiple cars, or even just a space. I mean, if you live in an apartment and you've got a single space.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're in an apartment, you're fucked anyways, as far as electric goes, because I don't know, and I think actually the plugging into the lamp post thing is an interesting, we have a couple of those now in Columbus. And it's a kind of a cool, because especially if you're street parking, if they can get meters to have even any kind of a charge in them, there's something there for sure. So my big thing with, whether it be electric or pickup trucks or whatever it would be, is that this mentality, having to have something that can do anything at any time it's very American and it's very Texas. But it's also not the most logical thing, right? I have a load of shit in my backyard right now, landscaping, that I got to go dump somewhere. I wish I had a truck, but I'll just go get a truck, right? Like, it's not that big of a deal. I'll go rent a truck for the
$19 at Home Depot, and it's no big deal. Yeah. Why take up your garage space and everything else when it's going to get used twice or three times a year, or just one need?
For the other 360 days a week or a year, God, it feels like 360 days a week this week, but for the other 360 days a year, just, cruise whatever. And I love not getting oil changes. I love never going through brake pads, is all the regenerative brake stuff. I love not breaking catalytic converters and there's
a lot of benefits, but I just think that the infrastructure is so lacking that the widespread adoption that people keep talking about, in 5 years, 10 years, said if you can't really realistically drive cross country any electric car other than a Tesla. And to do that, you have to go to specific points.
And you literally have to take the route or the one of two routes, and that's all you can do. It makes it a lot more difficult and a lot less likely to catch on.
To me, it just defeats the purpose of having a car. You might as well take the train or jump on a plane or rent a car when you get there, because you're literally restricting yourself to where Tesla or whatever network has decided to put chargers at. When we've got the infrastructure for gas, and gas is so cheap, you can go anywhere on gas or diesel, anywhere in the world pretty much. And it's just kind of I think they have their place, but I just don't see them being as widely adopted as the hardcore electric fanboys who are like everyone's being an electric car in 5 years. I don't think so.
No, yeah, it's not going to happen. No, and I think that being we do a lot of the Tesla Club stuff here at the detailing shop. We do a lot of the because their production process is fucking terrible. But the people all the time, there's this trope of like, well, one day we're going to look back at gasoline and we're going to go, what the fuck were we thinking? What we really had to pull liquid out of the ground. Like, they're talking about like it's just going to be like this archaic concept. And I don't buy it. I think that's wrong. I think the fact that we can stop somewhere and put a gallon of something in the car and get 4 people comfortably 30 miles down the road with this 1 gallon of it's miraculous. And it's like, it's amazing. It's one of the more impressive accomplishments to me that that human beings have figured out.
Oh yeah, totally.
And I don't think that it's, I think it's difficult in that it is it eventually we're going to run out, probably, right? Like anything finite will run out. And the question is, are we going to transition to something, some other fossil fuel that will allow us to continue on the habit, the habitual use that we've created now? Or is it going to be something else, right? Because all things given a long enough period of time run out, right? So I can't imagine that the car is going to go away. So it's either the car goes away, we run out of juice eventually, or we transition away. I don't know what a fourth reality could possibly be.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be a transition at some point. We'll see more electrification come in, but as far as what's next, who really knows? We don't know what technologies are going to be unlocked in the next several years. And they're still finding oil all over the place, it seems like. So we've got a glut of oil right now, so it's kind of it's one of those things that you got to look at what's gonna be acceptable now. And the vision stuff in the future is all great, but you also got to remember that all those chemicals you make batteries and stuff out of also come out of the ground, and those are also finite. So are we just trading one for the other? And that one, we don't see oil derricks because they're mining in Africa, so we don't really care. So I don't know what the answer is. I like all cars. I've always liked innovation, and the new Teslas. To drive one is like being in a spaceship. It is wild. Especially
it's hard. It's hard to argue with its merits when you're messing.
Yeah, once you actually drive it, you get behind the wheel of one. It is absolutely amazing. But then again, I'm the type of person who likes old Austin Healey's and rowing through the gears and feeling a car, and smelling gasoline, all that stuff. So for me, I don't see myself ever getting rid of a petrol car as long as it's an option to still fill it up. And honestly, people have talked about the model of it eventually becoming like horses. No one needs horses. We got rid of horses years ago, but there's this whole infrastructure to support people who want to have horses for enjoyment. And that may be what the gasoline car becomes.
Yeah, it's take your Boxer or whatever to the racetrack on the weekend, and that's what you do. And then you cruise around in the city in your electric car during the week while you're commuting. That's it. Hey, I'm okay with that plan. I'm good with that.
Yeah,
that's what I'm doing right now, actually.
That's what I'm doing. Here I am. I don't mind it one bit.
Not at all.
So what is your of everything you've driven, which is the best? And you can't say, oh, it's hard to, you can say it, but I need you to pick a best. The best car.
Yeah, first thing that comes to mind. What's off the cuff? What's the best one?
Gosh, I say there's a lot. I've driven a lot of cars. Honestly, as far as all around, just the best, most fun car that I've had a chance to drive would be the Audi R8 V10. It was very, it wasn't flamboyant and crazy and wild, but it was really good and really solid and, very German. So I gotta say that was probably one of the most, I also gotta take it on the track and really thrash it. But
it's so easy to fall in love with something when you get a chance to do something like that, though.
Oh yeah. It's really good. For like a more attainable car, the one that I think shocked me the most in the last year was the Hyundai Veloster in performance.
I've heard great things about that car, and I want to drive one so bad. I haven't been able to get the opportunity to, but everything I've read, everything I've seen, every video I've watched, everybody raves about that thing.
Is that the one that we're getting?
Yeah, it's available now. You can buy that now.
Here. Yeah. And they just announced it with a DCT, I believe, for or a dual clutch. I can't remember what they call theirs, but it's a dual clutch transmission coming out this year, or it may be coming to dealerships very soon.
Yeah, that just got announced. It's phenomenal. I got to drive the first launch edition, the performance model, out at Thunderhill Raceway when they first launched it, and it was the closest I compare it to was like a Golf GTI Autobahn. Like, it was that good right out of the box, and you could definitely tell they'd hired a bunch of Germans to make this thing really, really stick, and it was a blast.
Well, they've got what's his name from BMW runs the N division, which is hilarious to me because it's like, okay, yeah, we took you from BMW, we're just going to switch you from running the M division to the let's just dial back one letter and go to N. How about that?
Yeah, it's not quite as good as M. It's an N.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny.
N.
Yeah.
No, N is next. Yeah, see, it's one better than M.
I guess it depends on which way you're going on the scale there, but
yeah. Exactly. Well, I can't wait till they have the N Sport.
Well, and there's your Veloster N, I believe that you had off of your Instagram there, just to give a quick shout out to that one. Looks good in white. I don't love the red accents on the bottom, but that's a very easy color match in my opinion. I got the same issue with Pacific Type R.
I don't know that I'd call that the most gentlemanly car I've ever seen.
I called it in my kind of story about it. I called it a single dad's car because it's like the perfect car for like your divorced single dad, because it's got the two doors on the one side for picking up the kids from school, but then still kind of the cool coupe on the other side. You hit the little flag button for the in mode and the exhaust gets loud and it's still fun.
Oh no, burble tunes. Oh no.
I bet it's got a burble tune.
Oh totally, no, I bet it has a burble tune.
But it sounds really good and fun, and it gets you that visceral kind of fun excitement of driving a car. But it is a very good driver.
I had a 718 Cayman S last week for a day, and I'm working on my review on one right now. And my God, I cannot get away from the subject of that terrible burble tune in sport. It sounds like a WRX STI because it's a flat four. I was so torn between, do I want any kind of sound at all while I'm driving this car? I hate the sound that it makes. So which one do I pick? Is it a terrible sound or no sound? And I kind of landed on terrible sound just to have something. It's just it's rough.
That's why that car will be better as an electric.
Well, I mean, the engine noise thing is pretty funny. When they first started doing that with the Mustangs a couple years ago, they started piping it in and channeling. Yeah, I mean
the GTI was an early offender also. I remember the GTI in like 06 or 07 with the sound.
I think the first car that had it was BMW Z4 when it came out, had the sound actor in it, and it was a little diaphragm in the engine bay that went into the footwell, so it wasn't even electronic, but it was piping engine noise into the cabin. Almost they called it like an engine subwoofer essentially. And that was the first one I know of that it didn't sound anything like the engine that was under the hood of the car. It was basically giving like all the bass tones from the engine. It was kind of a bizarre initial thing. Funny enough, I just read I have like an old Car and Driver from 2003, and I was just reading the review on it the other day, and I was like, man, I forgot that thing had that. That was kind of a front runner.
What a strange thing to spend your time doing.
Dude, I have a bunch of old, actually I have a friend out here who has Car and Drivers and Road and Tracks from like back to the 60s and stuff. And so every time I see him, he gives me a stack, and I just keep trading magazines back and forth with him. But that's what, kind of circling back to what we were talking about, you read these old ones and the articles were good. I mean, they were enjoyable to read. It wasn't a spec sheet. It was a road test. It was a review. It was some kind of a story with substance.
Well, it's kind of sad because I get going on a lot of these events where there's a lot of the guys from the big magazines, and I won't name which magazine it was, but I was talking to this one guy, and he was a younger guy who was basically just talking about how his job.
Road track.
He sits in a tiny office in New York with like 4 other guys, and they're required to do between, I think he said 8 and 10 stories a day.
Right.
Wow. And they're just cranking out press release rewrites and all that stuff all day long because they have to have so much content so that they can then share all that content to social media to try to get enough views to justify what they're charging people for the ads. it's just kind of sad because I mean, I think that there's so much more interest in longer form content, in content that tells stories. And I mean, I see it with our site. I mean, we're not, setting the world on fire. We're not the biggest website in the world, but we have really long read times. We have really, really long times of people going to multiple pages on the site. People spend a lot of time on the site, and it's a good mix of stuff too. I think that's the other thing, is like getting away from like that, back to that thing about car guys just being car people and not really liking guys that are just obsessed with cars. We talk about history and menswear and technology and all kinds of other things on the site as well. So it's kind of a kind of a more well-rounded way of looking at the automotive hobby.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it kind of goes to the original idea for this podcast, right? Like, this is never going to be let's talk about the new so-and-so. It has 150 horsepower, making a boat out of a force, because just like you said, and Kevin and I had the almost identical conversation of what you were saying about that you're not gonna be able to do it either any better, nor are you going to get any more traction. When we were sitting in the Taycan that we reviewed or that we talked about, the thought of us we're never going to get the car earlier than anybody that, is going to be able to get the baseline information out there. They're going to get it first. We're in Columbus and Lexington, and we are nobody. But also, by time we can actually give our feedback, everyone has already made up their decision. They've already been told what to think anyways. So
what can you say that hasn't already been said essentially at that point?
Yeah.
Taycan, very fast, this much range, electric, Tesla killer,
makes
blah, blah,
noises.
Yeah. That was, I actually like the Jetsons noises.
I loved the Jetsons noises. It was one of my favorite things about that car.
I still can't believe nobody talks about the downshift. Did you get a chance to drive that car yet?
No, I haven't driven it at all. So
oh, it's fantastic. It's really good. I'm not the biggest electric car person. Brandon's getting me there with he's throwing me the keys to the Leaf and the Soul every once in a while, but those aren't really the epitome of the performance electric car. But the Taycan was something seriously special in my opinion.
So the really cool thing about the Taycan that I've not heard people talking about it for some reason is, I have heard people mention that it's essentially a 2-speed transmission. So it's a variable, the first gear tends to shift somewhere between like 40 and 55 miles an hour, depending on how you're accelerating, but it also will kick down in a downshift. So as you're decelerating, as you're coming in, you're after driving and you're coming into the parking lot, you're making the right turn, it'll actually boom, like you'll hear that kick, and it makes it just it's a game changer because it feels like you're driving a car all of a sudden. And as you're taking you get like that kick, and it's awesome. I love that.
We were leaving the parking lot. Brandon was driving. I was sitting in the passenger seat, and I was kind of just feeling my way around the car, looking at all the tech. And I'm asking our friend Corey, who was helping us out at the dealership that day,
our babysitter,
can you feel the 1-2 shift? And as that's happening, the 1-2 shift goes, and I'm like, oh my God, you can feel it. And, if you dial it in a Sport Plus, like Brandon said, I mean, it literally like blips the throttle on the downshift when you're decelerating. It's very cool. And with the Jetsons noises attached to it, it's a really interesting thing that you don't get that sensation in a Tesla.
No, that's super cool.
No, it's cool stuff. So what is forthcoming that you are most excited about?
Well, I'm kind of excited to be able to get back out on the road. I had a bunch of travel, obviously.
Doing stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I
stuff, man.
Last week I was supposed to be in Key West, driving from Miami, Florida, from the Aston Martin. They have a building there. They built like an apartment complex. It's like these super luxury lofts. So I was going to drive from there to Key West in the Aston Martin DB11. Super legit. It was gonna be super cool. That got canceled because they literally closed the highway to Key West because no one other than residents was allowed in. So yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of trips I'm kind of getting caught up on. I'm looking at a motorcycle project just for fun, just to build something. Getting the Austin Healey out and working on that some more, trying to get some stuff wrapped up with that. I kind of been consolidating stuff for the last several months since I moved to Texas. I bought a building here. We've been doing all that stuff. So there's been a lot going on, but really looking to get back on the road again.
So are you still able during this time, and we're not even going to say what this time is. During this time, actually, we did a pretty good job of avoiding the coronavirus thing for quite a while now.
Yeah, let's stay on that track for a minute.
But are you able to? I mean, obviously, you can do it. You are self-employed. You can do what you want. But as far as like your ability to like the asset, if you say, hey,
well, so like I was supposed to be on a Bentley press drive, and they basically couldn't get. They had to cancel it, obviously. So they arranged to have their fleet people drop off the Bentayga to me. So I have it for a week. So we've been able to keep some of that stuff going. When it first all started hitting, they actually canceled quite a few of our vehicles lined up, but now stuff's kind of shaken out, and Texas is pretty much open for the most part. They've scheduled me out for the next couple of weeks, so I've got cars scheduled now for 3 or 4 different weeks coming up. So we've got a lot of stuff coming. So we'll have new content coming on that stuff as well.
Anything that you're like particularly excited about, or are you just totally jaded by now?
Oh no, I mean, I for me, like, I love the reason why I'm not one of those guys who's like a Chevy guy or a Ford guy. Like I've had Renaults and Peugeots and Lancias and Fiats and all kinds of weird oddball kit cars. I had a Puma from Brazil. I mean, I've had all kinds of weird stuff. The main reason why I'm like that is because I always love every car. Every car has a reason. Someone designed it. There's a purpose behind it. So I always love all the little weird things you find with each new car. Like this Bentley is just, it's so hilarious because first off, in Central Texas, you can buy a brand new nice house for about $250,000. This is $273,000. It's also bright orange. And if you know anything about Texas and football, I'm in Aggie land, which is maroon, and their chief rival is Texas. Yeah, so they're orange. So that's also been getting me some side eye here in the neighborhood. But I mean, it's got all these weird little kind of fun things. Like my fiance, she's kind of, she's shorter, so we can hit the button and lower the car down to the ground so she can get in and out easier. And she finds all of this stuff really ridiculous, like the puddle lights with the Bentley logos and things like that. She's like, why?
Yeah, it's
like
an eye roll. Yeah.
She's just like, why is
See,
this a thing?
my fiance is taller, so I just put my car on coilovers and lowered it down so she just has a hard time as a complaint when she gets in and out. That's what I did instead. It's kind of the reverse of what you're talking about.
Well, because Kevin's a little bit tiny, so he got it to his level.
Well, here's the funny thing
it's
about
perfect for me. I'm great.
So the Bentley, it's $273,000, full of all this technology. It's the fastest SUV in the world. It doesn't have power folding rear seats, which I found really shocking because like Suburban has it, Lincolns have it, like everyone else has a power folding second row seat. This you have to go up and actually manually pull. I'm like, I know maybe your butler does it for you when you
because Volkswagen doesn't have a power folding rear seat.
Is it a potential option that one doesn't have on it? I haven't built a Bentley Bentayga on the configurator.
No, this one's the Bentley Bentayga Speed, and it's pretty much fully loaded. I mean, it's got everything you can get on it. So I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, usually the press cars would have like the, if it's an option, usually they'll do it. That's why the as tested is always 50% higher than the MSRP.
Oh yeah. I mean, when I get these trucks, I think that's the thing that's always the most impressive. When I get like a $87,000 Chevy 1500 series, I'm going, huh?
Wow. Yeah. I don't know how you managed to do it, but holy shit. So if as an only car, right? If you're going to pick an only car, and we're not talking, old, we're talking about new, you got to go to a dealer and buy yourself a new car in a reasonable price range. Is it a truck? Is it an SUV? Is it a sedan? Is it a coupe? Is it a hatchback? Is it a wagon?
Is it a wagon?
Are there any wagons really anymore? I mean, Buick
E63S.
Yeah, I mean, there's really we don't get a lot of wagons here. I mean, you're supposed to get the Audi
Sport Turismo.
Yeah, there's a few. I don't know. I mean, I've never been a big SUV guy. I do like Land Rovers, so I'd probably go with something from Land Rover if I had to have an only vehicle. I really enjoyed the Discovery that I had last with the massaging seats and all that. It was really nice. But yeah, I'd probably go with like a Land Rover Discovery or maybe a Range Rover Sport or something like that. They're just nice, still perform very well, pretty capable, and can still tow stuff if you need to.
When Kevin and I play like if you hit the Powerball, what would your your driveway look like? If you can only have 2 cars in your garage still, but and your house is being built, like the Bentayga is always my like that's my daily.
And the E63 wagon is typically my daily.
Yeah.
So
the Bentayga, like honestly, the kind of the angle I'm taking with this is it's really the perfect vehicle if you're just a Texas oil man, because you have these big long stretches. It is incredibly comfortable. Because I drove the Rolls-Royce Cullinan, and the Cullinan is very nice, but it's got that extra level of pretentiousness to it that I don't think the Bentley has. I think the Bentley still
It's got a whiff of douchebag.
Yeah, I mean it's nice, but I mean it's also $200,000 more than the Bentley. So yeah, that was a little shocking when they're like, "Here, go drive this." And I'm like, "Oh, that's like $500,000." So
like that's 2 houses here.
yeah, it's
that's an entire block.
I have this young kid in the small town I moved to that helps me sometimes, and I took him along with me to Dallas, and we did the Rolls Royce thing. And we're driving along. He's sitting in the back, and I'm driving, so it looks like I'm his driver. And we're having a good time in the Rolls Royce. And we pull up at a stoplight, and a brand new Range Rover pulls up.
Grey Poupon. Tell me it was Grey Poupon. Tell me it was Grey Poupon.
I just blew his mind when I said, look over at that Range Rover. It's like, yeah, that's really nice. I said, this car is $400,000 more.
Yeah. the tax on that.
Yeah,
essentially, or five Range Rovers, 5 very well equipped Range Rovers, essentially. Insane.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, so these supercars. I mean, I do a lot of stuff with McLaren too, so I've become a big McLaren fan. Really enjoy the McLarens, the 600 LT.
Which is your pick of the lineup?
If I was gonna go buy a McLaren with my own money, which I don't have, I would go buy a 720S. Which, yeah, there you go. The 720S is by far one of my favorite vehicles to drive. I've had a chance to drive it on the track. I've had a chance to drive it across Arizona when they did the launch for the 720S Spider. It is a phenomenal vehicle to drive, and probably the prettiest McLaren they've come out with yet. The new GT is very nice, but the 720S is probably the prettiest McLaren they've ever done.
So when Brandon asked you, your favorite car you've driven recently, or favorite car you've driven, period, at the beginning of this, and you said Audi R8 V10, I actually had this photo pulled up because I thought you were going to go McLaren 720. Yeah. So I was like scrolling through your Instagram real quick. I'm like, oh, he's going to say 720. So I had it up and ready to roll. But you surprised me on that one. I just know everybody talks about how good the 720s are.
Yeah, I think
my younger brother has a. No, go ahead.
Oh, I think the Audi R8 just kind of sticks out just because it's pretty obtainable, honestly. Like, and especially like on the secondhand market. I mean, they're very obtainable, and it is. I mean, parts are cheap to fix them and keep them running. I mean, it's not crazy. It's not like Lamborghini where it's like an Audi with extra expensive parts, or a Ferrari which you're not even allowed to buy unless they approve you to buy it. So I really like how approachable it is. McLaren though is very approachable. They're really good to work with. I mean, their team is phenomenal, and just their experience for their owners is incredible, because I've got to do several of their they call them the pure McLaren experiences, where they let you come out and owners are paying to go out on the track, and you're there with Mike and Mia Fluid, the CEO of McLaren, and his wife is a GT4 McLaren champion driver. I mean, she's won the championship I think twice in a row. Just incredible people and real car people. That's the really cool thing about McLaren. They're just all hardcore car people. But yeah, I mean, you're gonna buy one, the Audi R8 is it's the steal of the supercar century.
So my younger brother, who was looking at either a R8 cab, what's the other car he was looking at? I know he was also looking at the what's the baby Lambo now? I always forget what it's called. The Huracan. Yeah. Huracan convertible, and then God, I don't know what other car. But I was like, dude, just go look at the McLaren. Like, go look at a 570. Like, just go look at one. Just because like it's the way those cars are put together is they are put together not like a car that got built on the Audi line, which the Audi is great in that sense, in that because it's just an Audi, like you said, it's you can maintain it, it's easy, you can go to any Audi dealership, no problem. The McLaren is definitely like a different level of kind of hand built kind of situation. And so he ended up with a 570S Spider, and holy shit, that car is so good. Oh, there! I was like, that's not me at all.
I just like that picture. I think it's a great photo, so I just want to throw it up since we're talking McLaren.
That's a 720. So that was for a really terrible, funny. It was funny. I mean, it was a video that I did in New York with a company where I was the automotive expert who had to come in and teach someone how to change a tire. And for this, kind of skit thing, I was driving a McLaren and she was driving a Mazda. So yeah, it's kind of fun.
Well, they're basically the same.
One of my good friends here actually has the 570S Spider, and he's really cool. He actually bought it. He'll tell everyone the same story, that he inherited some money, decided that he was going to go buy a car that was kind of crazy. But the cool thing about it is he bought the car, then immediately took it on a 7,000-mile road trip.
Nice. So the best thing ever, like I'd never heard it talked about, but what I love about McLaren is that their warranty is 3 years, unlimited mileage. So however much you want to drive it, your warranty covers it. Obviously, you're losing a boatload of money as you pile the miles on, but you can do whatever you want for the first 3 years, and it's covered by warranty, and that's the best thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, I mean, for a car like that, especially.
Does the miles sway the price on those that much?
Oh yeah, I mean, yes.
I mean,
yes.
McLarens tend to tank pretty quickly, as far like most big supercars do. But yeah, I mean, higher miles, obviously, just people don't want to pay the maintenance, because those services are, I think an oil change is $1,500. So
yeah, I mean, I've never looked at the used market on a McLaren, so I have no idea. But there's certain cars you can get into, and you can still put miles on them and sell them for not a significant loss, and sometimes pretty close to what you paid for.
So the problem with the McLaren market, I imagine, and this is purely just a guess, but is that there's so many people buy them and just like kind of keep them to drive them occasionally and end up putting very few miles on them, and they go, oh, fuck, like I'm never driving this car, sell it. And so like there's like a huge valley, but there's a huge gap between like I've had it in my garage for the last year and I just want to get rid of it, and I've been driving it. And there's so many of these, I've had it in the garage for the last 2 years, cars that like it's a pick of a litter. So my brother actually bought it in LA, bought it from I think it was the Beverly Hills dealer, but it was one of the cars that there's like a whole scandal that I think who's no longer dealer had been basically demoing cars, like was just punching out cars so they looked like the number one sales place in the country, and they were just trying to they would just to themselves, they would just make it so that they became slightly pre-owned cars, but they were never titled. So they ended up getting shut down, and they were like, there's this huge batch of cars that got shipped all over, all the different dealerships bought them up. So he got like a crazy deal on it. It's an unbelievable car though. Having that thing in the Malibu mountains, and he drives the snot out of it. Like he really, I mean, I'm sure right now with the way the police situation is in LA, like it's really intense. But it is insane how quickly that car can change direction. I've never been in a car that goes, okay, cool, let's go this way. Oh, there's no fight to it. Like it just goes.
Yeah, the first McLaren I ever drove was actually the 570S Spider launch that they did out of Malibu, and that's driving up in the hills above LA is something special, and it's just so much fun, especially with the top down, sunny out, exhaust note blaring. It's just it's a blast. Yep, top down. So that's the way a sports car should be.
So the highest mileage 570S on Auto Trader right now is 24,296 miles. It's $136,790. And it's a 2017. I don't know the differences between years. Brandon, you probably know that better than me, but it doesn't seem to command much of a premium over, a similar year with maybe 8 to 10,000 miles as an example.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about like real miles though.
But if they don't have them, there's
right. Yeah. They're not.
How can
they're
you
not
speculate?
Out there. Yeah. No, I hear you, but I'm saying like it's not like if it was me, if I was like, oh fuck it, like, and I imagine a lot of people that buy the 570s are like my younger brother who who sold his company, and there's probably a lot of those like, oh fuck yeah, I'm just gonna go get that. But if I did that and I was wanting to just like rather than seeing it, well I want it to be worth some money when I'm done with it. 15,000 miles a year easy on that thing. Because they're not hard to drive.
Even MP4 12Cs, 46,000 miles versus 30,000 miles at the same price.
Yeah,
out there. Maybe it's not as big of a differential as you thought. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just not a lot of McLarens trading out there, I think, right now too. I mean, they're still a fairly young company. I mean, compared to, I mean, you look at like Lamborghini. I mean, how many Huracans they build? I mean, I think you get a lot more difference in the price because there's so many of them out there.
Yeah, no, and that was one of the things I told my brother, and he noticed it big time after, like, after buying the car. But basically, like, in LA, if you go to, if you go to, fill in Nobu type restaurant blank here, there's going to be a dozen R8s and like 2 dozen Huracans out front. And like, at that point, like, why even bother driving an R8? Because like,
Whoever's car this was is my hero. It's an LT with 25,000 miles on it.
Oh
That's
God,
amazing.
I want the LT, yeah.
This guy is my hero.
That's awesome.
San Francisco.
Fantastic.
Very cool.
Fantastic.
So anything that you have coming up as far as, like, experiences and stuff like that you're going to be that you're looking forward to big time?
We've got I'm getting married in September. That's the biggest thing on my agenda.
Or is it happening?
It's still happening.
Yeah, it's still happening. Yeah, and then so obviously that's the biggest thing on my list that I've got to be focused on. And then the other thing that's awesome is we're still trying to put together. We're restructuring right now, but I launched
Grossbeck.
Yeah, the Grossbeck Grand Prix. Yeah, so
awesome.
We're really excited about that. We had some great meetings up in Dallas a couple weeks ago with the guys who used to run the Concours of Texas, and we're gonna have some really amazing vehicles out there. We're just trying to figure out what our structure is going to be as far as spectators and all that right now, and if we're going to be able to even have spectators at this point, just depending on what the rules are. So we're still working on the Grossbeck Grand Prix, which is going to be. It was just kind of I always want to go to like a Goodwood Festival of Speed, but in America, and we never have any good events here, like for like vintage car stuff. Like you go to a vintage car race, it's a bunch of old dudes who are awesome guys that are all racing, and they're there to race. And then there's the promoters who like will name something like the California Festival of Speed, and you go there and there's like no food, there's no festival, there's nothing to do.
There's no speed.
There's barely any
speed.
speed.
Yeah, I mean, I was like the kind of thing like you're like, okay, I want to be able to go with I want to convince my wife, my fiance, whatever, to go with me to an event. And I've taken her to some track stuff. She's a good sport, but she's got about an hour max of, okay, so there's no shade, it's hot, and there's cars running around, and they're going to do this for another 6 hours, huh?
Yeah, it's not going to work on the tarmac.
Yeah, I'm done. So we tried to create an event that's going to be more community focused, working with a really great charity. So all the proceeds are going to support Drive Towards a Cure, which is a Parkinson's research charity that does a lot of really cool events all over the U.S. With cars and rallies and things like that. So we're really excited. I mean, we're still kind of scrambling now with all the changes to make this happen, but we're hoping everything's going to go off without a hitch.
And the namesake is a place, right? Like there's Grossbeck, yeah. Texas, right?
Yeah. So Grossbeck is the town that I bought my building in. So I bought this building on the internet, sight unseen,
all right,
and loaded a truck and moved to Texas. So yeah, it was a fun experience. The building is getting ready for our like big stage 2 of construction once all this kind of loosens up, and that's going to be like my home base for creating content and storing all my weird stuff that I collect and things like that. So
as a person
who is that from you?
Who loves buying things sight unseen on the internet, I fully approve of that.
It was just one of those things where it was so inexpensive that I could wire money and buy a building, and I was like, okay, I'll do that. So bought a building. It was less than $100. And I have a old department store building in a small town in Texas. It's
Very
about
cool.
45 minutes from where I'm living now, so it's not too bad.
Like it's a reasonable drive to go check it out.
Yeah, so we pop up there. I mean, the plan is to eventually. There's a great lake up there called Lake Limestone. So the plan is to eventually get like a lake house up there, and to kind of make that our base of operations for content creation and just having a space to host events and stuff.
And how many people do you guys have like working with you?
So we've got
how many people do you have working with you?
So we have a couple of different content contributors, about 4 that really kind of make regularly contribute. We get people all the time that are like, hey, can I share a story or something like that, and we'll work them in. But yeah, it's about 4 people who regularly contribute. The bulk of it's me. I do most of the writing and photography and stuff like that. And then we use a lot of resources, obviously, from the OEs and other assets like that. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun kind of watching it grow. the building's going to be a fun thing because we plan on hosting a lot of events, and because it's a really nice drive out to Groesbeck. There's some great roads on the way out there, and again, an awesome lake. So we kind of are going to make that a destination for people to come and hang out and do some car events and stuff at.
Population
Very
was
cool.
4,328 at the 2010 census.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I picked it because it has an actual grocery store, a hospital, and actual hotels. It's right on a major highway, so it gets pretty decent traffic, even though there's not a lot of people that actually live there. And it's a really cute little town.
That's awesome. So how long have you been in
Absolutely.
Texas now?
This would be my second year. Yeah.
And how is it?
Love it. Absolutely love it. I mean, I grew up in Southern California, outside of the LA area. Actually, we had a calf ranch when I was a kid. All of its houses now. I go back and visit. It's just all houses as far as you can see. You would know the area. It was the Chino Valley, Norco areas where we were. That's all.
Yeah,
houses
but
now.
we're both like Valley kids, basically.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
So, yeah, it was all just all turned into endless rows of track houses. Just too bad.
It's a bummer. Yeah, no, it's like going to the Valley and knowing that it used to all be orange groves and now it's all.
I was on a drive with Mazda late last year, and we were out going from like Temecula over to Palm Springs, and we went through like Beaumont, and they just built so many houses out there, and I was going, where are these people working? Like, you live in Beaumont, where do you commute to?
Yeah, it's great. Actually, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, everybody's working for Google now or for Amazon.
I guess so.
Yeah. So what has did you tell me what you're driving now? What your daily?
So my daily is still my little 128i. It's a 2011. I barely have 74,000 miles on it.
Wow.
And it's mainly because I usually work from home or I have press cars. So
Right.
And it's pretty much bone stock. It was a car that I bought that I didn't want to. I wanted to buy something that I wouldn't modify to start every time. And at the time before that, I had a 1974 Ford Courier pickup truck.
Nice.
So it was a lot of fun, but it was
a different car for sure.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I bought the little Beamer. It was originally ordered for a BMW employee, so it had the heated steering wheels and every option you could get on the car.
All the random shit. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's super nice. It's a great car to drive. A lot of fun on the country roads and stuff still, with just being stock, but it's a lot of fun. It's a great little car. And then I also have we have a Jeep Grand Cherokee that my fiance drives. It's great, regular SUV for hauling stuff. And then I have a 62 Austin Healey that's a project car that we've been working on for a little while. That's coming together. It's a pretty neat car. It's a special that was built in Manhattan Beach back in the 60s. So it's got a unique fiberglass front end on it and some other stuff that's kind of cool.
I have to ask, is your 128 a 6-speed or an auto?
It's an auto. And I bought it as an auto on purpose because I was living in California at the time and I had to go into LA all the time. So I
almost pulled the trigger on a 128 M Sport 6-speed probably 3 or 4 separate times, 3 or 4 separate cars, one of which was a leftover 3 years or 2 years after they stopped production of them. And every single time I didn't end up doing it. I ended up buying an E91 wagon M Sport 6-speed instead. But that was always one of my favorite cars, was a 128 with an M Sport package. I would prefer it over a 135i all day long. To me, it was the balance of it. It just felt right. It felt like a real BMW. That's something that's very lacking with a lot of the newer BMWs that I've driven personally.
Yeah, it's a really fun little car. I mean, like I said, even with the automatic, it's still just fun to drive when you get a country road. But yeah, been super reliable. It's actually ended up being one of those super ultra low emissions vehicles. So it's still under warranty. Had a 10-year, 150,000 mile warranty on all emissions products. So they replace coil packs on it at BMW all the time. It's great.
Oh, yours has the N51 then, not to get too technical, but it was the super ultra low emissions one. It was the California specific. Typically there was a couple states that got those.
Yeah.
They had the 3 3-stage intake manifolds, but the lower compression, so they weren't the hot rod ones.
Oh,
Yeah,
Kevin.
I took my wagon and
Stop it.
converted it from a 328
Yeah.
to a 330. So that was my trick. But that's what I wanted to do with that 128, because I think a 128 with 270 or 80 naturally aspirated horsepower and a manual would be the jam. That's what's up. That's the perfect car.
So Mike, what are you sipping on over there?
I'm actually drinking Clyde May's Alabama style whiskey. It's really
Hashtag
good.
ad.
Yeah.
Hashtag sponsored.
Yeah,
Hashtag sponsored content.
Yeah, they actually do send me this stuff. It's really, really good. It's what makes it Alabama style. And the thing I loved about the Clyde Mays brand is it's got like a really cool story, because the guy was a legit moonshine runner, and then went to jail, kept moonshining after he got out of jail, and then finally went like not even until like the 90s. He was still moonshine like through the 80s and early 90s.
Bro, it's legal. What are you doing?
Yeah, just go get a license, man. So, but what's cool is like what makes it Alabama style is they do they take apples, basically baked apples, and they line the barrels with these baked apples and let it really soak into the barrel. And then
you make out with your sister and let your teeth fall out.
Well, that comes.
No,
after you
I'm
drink
just
the bottle.
stop. Everybody calm down. Everybody calm down.
It adds a really cool little kind of apple hint of a flavor to it, so it's pretty good.
Nice. What about you, Kev? What you drinking on over there?
I had a hell of a Monday, and it's Thursday, so I busted
Oh,
out the
that's so
Blanton.
fun. I didn't even realize it was You said a hell of a Monday like 4 times today. I'm like, it didn't even dawn on me that it was actually a Thursday.
The beer just wasn't cutting it tonight. I had a couple of those before, but yeah, busted out the Blantons just because it's when you have a bad Monday on a Thursday, you got to go for some bourbon. What about you, B? What do you got?
As I posted on the gram, I picked up a new little shipment. Oh, I heard that of platforms. So this is a new beer to me. It's called Open Market. Open Market. It is a Nordic white ale. And it's peach and apricot, and it is fucking delicious. It's so good. Like this is what I have. I am not like I'm very infrequent to actually finish my beer generally. But this is so damn good. Kevin, you're gonna have to.
He drinks about 1 in the time that I would drink about 4, 5, or 6, depending on when and where we are.
I'm a sipper. I have no shame, and this is a delicious sipping beer.
I tend to be a sipper myself. I'll usually have 1 beer, maybe 2.
Well, when you're drinking whiskey, you got to sip on it, right? So cheers, guys. Thank you for joining us. Much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. It's been great.
Let's give a shout out to Reginald Ganius. Ganius, is that a buddy of yours?
Yeah, I know Reggie.
He posted on the Facebook or on the YouTube live, and then also tagged an Instagram story. So Reggie, you listening? You're my boy, Blue.
Thanks.
You're my boy.
We appreciate it, man. Thank you.
So we talked about your website, we talked about your Instagram, we talked about your forthcoming Grand Prix. We haven't so much talked about your clothing line.
Yeah.
So tell us.
So my clothing company, we actually have 2 clothing companies. One's like Western women's wear, so that's kind of not super.
That's right up my alley.
Yeah, right up your alley. And the other one's called M&P Speed Shop, which is kind of retro Americana, hot roddy type stuff. Do a lot of kind of t-shirts, hats. We actually make the official licensed golf oil stuff, which is pretty fun. So we got all the actual like legit golf oil stuff you can buy that's not knockoff from China. So we actually do all of our production here in the U.S. It's currently still being printed and shipped from California. A lot of that'll move over once we get our building done to here to Texas. But it's kind of fun. I do all the designs. They're just fun shirts. A lot of them have stories behind them. So like the Tamagawa shirt that was up, that one's like that was the first racetrack in Japan, and like people with names like Honda and Nissan race there. It was pretty cool. So it's kind of just a fun thing. It's a sideline for me to really do this kind of fun outlets. We see all Carroll Shelby's apparel, which was a lot of fun. We work with Fiat and Dodge. We've done stuff with other big brands as well. We do a lot of private label for people, but yeah, it's a lot of fun, and we get to do a lot of cool kind of events and stuff around the apparel as well.
I love the golf stuff, and Brandon knows that. I wish I had my other watch on tonight, but I have a Tag Heuer Golf Formula One edition, which is an interesting piece. But I love the golf stuff. I've got golf signs in my garage. I try to collect it. My dad worked at one when he was a kid, so it kind of goes full circle for me in that direction. So you'll see my name pop up on an order here probably fairly soon, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Like we approached golf back in, I guess it had been 2010, and they said, yeah, go ahead, start designing stuff, and they've been really easy to work with. We have some really cool new stuff coming out for fall, including a jacket that's based on Steve McQueen's fire suit from the movie Le Mans, but it's an actual jacket with a regular collar, but it kind of has the same, the white stripe, the golf patch, all that stuff, the American flag patch on the shoulder. So it's kind of a fun stuff like that. We got to do a lot of retro kind of stuff that didn't exist but looks right, so it's kind of fun.
Right. Yeah. Period. Correct.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stunt for a second just to show you, but there you go. There's the tag horror with the golf stripe and the golf logo on it, which I love it. It's such a fun piece. I just really like it. So
Jesus,
I had to.
Kevin.
Come on, if he's licensed for golf, I got to show him my golf stuff. Come on.
Jesus, Kevin. Oh.
Yeah, golf is one
I
of those
have
just
an
iconic
Apple
brands.
Watch.
Yeah, we don't care. Put it down.
Hold on, I can put golf on the back of that too. 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, let's keep going, Mike. We'll just let him do his thing with his calculator or whatever he's got on there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big watch guy myself, so I love mechanical watches.
There we go.
Like
I got a fellow watch person here.
I don't own a smartwatch. Probably won't ever own a smartwatch. I think I spend enough time looking at screens as it is with my phone and everything else. So, kind of like I also like the artistry of watches. I've got an Omagato Marinello, which I've been wearing recently. It's really nice, really cool watch. I've got a really neat two-door that I'm restoring right now because I do a lot of watch restoration as kind of a side hobby.
Very nice.
I've got a bunch of vintage watches. In fact, my mom actually just shipped me a box she found of my grandfather's old watches, and I'm kind of going through those right now and restoring those.
What's up, everybody? It's Smoking Tire Podcast.
Get out of here, Brandon. Go take a bathroom break or something. We'll talk watches for 10 minutes. And you can
Tire
go play
Podcast.
with,
This podcast sponsored by whatever. You can buy watches and they'll send you.
Yeah, I think there is always a weird connection between like car guys and watches. I think it's just like a mechanical thing.
It's the mechanical thing. I mean, to have a piece of something on your wrist that literally is just, it's the mechanics of it's moving. It's made, it's engineered. It's not powered by battery. Like there's just so many cool things about it. I think there's a lot of parallels, and that's why you see a lot of that in the community.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm right there with you. So I nerd out on it. Brandon's like, oh, Apple Watch is superior in every single way, except that it's not. But
Well, it probably does tell the time better. It doesn't ever lose any time. And it's it is
it tells me the weather.
It kind of is a Dick Tracy watch from like the old comic books. It's
absolutely.
But
you know what? At the end of the day, no, go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, I would say that they're just not pretty.
Exactly. And to me, it's like I don't need it to tell me the weather. I don't need it to tell me how many steps. I just want it to tell me the time that's mostly correct for whatever given time it is. And if it's wrong, it's wrong. And then I just go, okay, I'm gonna
9,090. That's how many steps.
Well, and for guys,
I've stepped.
It's kind of the only acceptable jewelry that most guys will wear. We all know like the Corvette drivers with like the chains and the satin jackets,
New
and
Balances,
stuff like that. New Balances, all stuff. So a nice watch you can get away with. You start adding extra bracelets on. You start getting down some roads you don't want to go down.
Yeah, listen, I'm not. I totally understand it. I like watches too. I don't want to say that I love. Like I'm not Kevin over there, but I have a deep appreciation for watches. I have a couple watches, and if I'm going out, if I'm getting dressed up. Kevin, stop your head shaking.
I don't think
if I'm going out.
Do you get dressed up?
Yeah. Like
he's dressed up right now with his Apple Watch on. He put a different band on. He puts a leather band on it, and that makes it dressy.
No. If I'm putting on like dress shoes, then I will probably not be wearing my.
I've never seen you wear a watch that's not an Apple Watch. I know you have watches that aren't Apple Watches, but I've never seen you.
That's horseshit.
Prove me wrong.
When would you see me dressed though?
Vegas?
Like not in a t-shirt. Oh, and I definitely brought my watches to Vegas.
No, definitely not.
Because I packed in a plastic bag because we flew Spirit.
Yeah, but watches go on your wrist, bro. It's really easy. It's a carry-on.
I could only pack what I could carry.
Yeah,
No,
I couldn't find a place for it. I had to have my other thing that's like my phone that's in my pocket
but
on my wrist.
I find that like when I'm wearing like just a watch, I find myself, I'm like, God, like it's only telling me the time. Like, what the fuck? Like this, like what's the point of this thing? Like I get it, but like it's just like not an efficient use of space.
It's okay, B. You don't get it. It's fine.
No, it's like, for me, watches are a lot like cars, and the fact that like they do tell stories, they have histories to them. Like my grandfather's old Bulova it's a really cool watch. I mean, and when you start getting the history of that watch company, I mean, the stuff that they developed and innovated and what those.
I love Boulevard though. That's I think probably my favorite like non-top tier.
Well, and it's the only other watch that's ever been to the moon. There's only been 2 watches that have been to space: the Omega
Speedmaster,
yep. And then the Boliva, their chronograph. So, yeah, they're really really cool. And like again, the one my grandpa gave me, or was my grandfather's. He wore that when he was working in the aerospace industry back in the '60s. So it's just really just kind of a cool little thing you can wear that's connected to a whole different time and place.
Yeah, there you go. Just like my my Golf connects me to my dad's first job at a Golf gas station. It's a very similar concept. Obviously,
do you want to post a picture of it real quick?
No, Brandon, you've seen it a million times. Don't worry about it.
You want to screen share that one more time?
You want to show me your calculator? What was that? Oh, super cool, dude. How many steps did you do today?
Look, it's like a bowl of there it is. Boom. Well, this went sideways.
Yeah,
don't be a dick.
But let's go back to the M&P Speed Shop. So that's basically mpspeedshop.com. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. So the name of it actually comes from my middle initial and my little sister's middle initial, who kind of helped me start the company. And yeah, it's just kind of a fun, automotive retro cool stuff. And we've got a lot of like one-offs and stuff on there as well. We've got some vintage patches and things like that. We put on hats and some kind of neat stuff that you really can't get anywhere else. And it's just, again, it's kind of a fun little thing. And each shirt has a story. It's tied to a real place, person, history, moment. So everything's got some type of connection to it.
Yeah, they're great. I'm looking at it right now at the store just to see what's out there. Again, you'll be seeing.
Share it.
We'll put it up here. This is
and it's mpspeedshop.com, right?
Correct.
mpspeedshop.com. And this is the men's clothing section. So just kind of scrolling through to see, but some really cool stuff. He's got a gentleman.
Look how reasonably priced it is too.
Yeah, absolutely. Really cool stuff. I mean, just really unique designs. I love the golf stuff, obviously, but this one, great. All of them, fantastic. So go check it out.
For those listening at home, this one is really hitting home.
It's called Yatabe Speedway TM2027 Gray. It's $36. It's a very cool shirt. Again, Mike, you'll be seeing my name on an order here fairly soon, maybe as soon as we hang up, depending on how much more of this Blanton's I drink. So.
The more Blantons he drank, the bigger the order. So get him
exactly.
Him
so keep me rolling, man. Just
I mean, the cool thing is, like, again, like the Yataba, that's the speed track. Have you ever seen those old vintage photos of the Toyota 2000 GT going around that huge banked oval?
Yes, absolutely.
That's that track, which is now, like a lot of tracks in the U.S., is now a shopping center. But it's just, we tried to tie stuff into like actual events and places and people, so it's not just
make it real.
A random thing. Yeah, it's got a story behind it. So it's I spent a lot of time in Japan, so I kind of was doing a lot of research when I was over there, just like checking out different places and exploring the different old ghost race tracks that are there. So
let me ask you, when you were in Japan, did you get to rent a car and go take it up like a toge run or anything like that?
No, I didn't drive when I was in Japan at all. I was living in Tokyo. I was there for 3 months working on a gig with Sony. So I would just take the train everywhere. My best friend, actually, since my childhood best friend, he lives over there, and he's only rented a car a few times just because he lives in Tokyo and doesn't need one at all. So it's more of a hassle there than you really need to just licensing and insurance and stuff. The
taxes and there's all kinds of regulations they have where it's very expensive to own a car and keep it there. That's why we see all the R32 GTRs with 30,000 miles on them, right? I mean, it's like at a certain point, I think you had to replace the engine, if I'm not mistaken. That was part of their law once you hit a certain mileage or a certain age.
And he's like 6'4", so like they're little cars that are like more affordable, have lower taxes. He just doesn't fit in. So
like the little Nissan Pals and stuff like that. The little the little K cars.
It's like a clown car for him, so it just doesn't work.
Yeah, see, perfect fit for me, not quite for your friend.
Yeah, it's a tight squeeze for him. But yeah, Japan is one of my favorite places. I plan on going back there hopefully either this year or next year. It's an amazing place to visit. The car culture there is amazing. We did some stories with Nissan while we were over there. The Nissan Heritage Center and things like that are just unreal. To see some of these cars in person is just nuts.
Yeah, I used to work for a couple tuner shops in Southern California, but one of them we imported a lot of stuff from Japan. It was an Evo, mostly Evo and 240SX shops. We did a lot of D Sport stuff and things like that. But I missed my opportunity twice to go to Tokyo Auto Salon. And I'm very upset that I didn't end up getting to go there. So it's definitely on my list of places to visit. Now I'm like, man, we can't travel. The regrets are setting in, but it'll happen at some point.
So speaking of favorite events, a question that we've kind of been bouncing around to most people that come on the podcast. Do you have a bucket list event? Is there something you're like, oh, I haven't been there, but I really want to?
Yeah, I want to go to Formula One weekend in Monaco. On every other year they have the weekend before it they have the classic, so the historic race. So I want to go for that Monaco Grand Prix and watch the historic and the modern F1. I will need a pile of money to do that because it's Monaco and there's nothing cheap there. But yeah, it would be an amazing event.
Or a really good partner, if anyone's out there. Mike is ready to write a hell of a story of what it's like to be in Monaco. So if you're out there, he's ready at the Gentleman Racer.
Yeah, I've only been to Monaco one time, and I was driving a Peugeot 206, so it wasn't quite the sexy fantasy of Monaco as most people would have enjoyed it, but it was fun.
Hey, maybe Bentley will get on board with that one, Just saying.
So what's the perfect Monaco car to you?
Wow, that's rough. For me, it'd be like a Ferrari Daytona or a Jaguar E-Type. Just something that's just oozing
classic,
class. Yeah, I mean, Monaco is one of those places. When I was driving my little Peugeot 206 into Monaco, I was on a road trip across Europe. My cousin and I had gone there, and we were driving around for months around Europe. And we're pulling into Monaco, and there's a Pagani Zonda in front of us. Now, coming from the U.S., you never saw Pagani Zondas like in reality. They were poster cars. And here's one just cruising down the boulevard. And it's just like, holy cow. And then you look over, and there's a guy like literally the white-gloved butler polishing the Rolls-Royce logo on the front of the car. The Spirit of Ecstasy is getting detailed, and every other car was a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, and it was just insane. Here I am in this little Peugeot station wagon putting around, but it was a blast.
Very cool. I like it. At least it was a wagon too. I think extra points for the wagon.
And so you've been to Goodwood?
Yes, once. Yeah.
How long ago was that?
Oh gosh, should have been 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, that I know for sure is like my bucket list. And I think what did you say yours was, Kevin?
I mean, that one's definitely on there. Yeah, I mean that's probably what it is at this point.
But what was your answer before? I forgot.
I can't remember. One? I don't think I gave one before. Yeah, I think we agreed with that guest. I can't remember who it was. We were talking about Goodwood. It was Mike. I'm sorry. It was Bill and from Audi Club.
George, yeah.
And George from Audi Club. I think they said Goodwood, or one of them said Goodwood, and we both agreed with them.
Got it.
Yeah, they just put events on so differently.
Kevin's answer from now on is the Grossbeck GP.
Yes, yeah, that's we want to make that the cool event to come to in the U.S. I mean, it's
absolutely. I'll be keeping an eye on the Instagram to see when it is, and I'm happy to fly.
September what, 22nd, something like that?
No, it's September 5th and 6th. So it's
5th and 6th.
First weekend of September, Memorial Day weekend. It's really cool because the location we chose for it's at a historic fort, so you have like this incredible setting where the racers are coming down a closed park road that we've shut down. It's 1.5 mile time trial, about the same as Goodwood. They come ripping down, and then there is a 90-degree angle. They come out at this corner, and there's this gigantic Pioneer wooden fort. Inside the fort's where we're going to have the Concours, which is going to be 50 cars that we're selecting. that are going to be invite only. We've got a bunch of car clubs around Texas doing rallies to the event, which will be pretty cool. We have a Fiat club, we have a British car club, we have just a general car club from Dallas that are doing like rallies to come to the event. We're still sorting out all of the logistics because of the whole COVID thing, but it's a really cool property because you can camp there. So if you want to come and make a weekend of it, there is camping available. There's actually some hotel rooms available on site, and there's RV hookups. I mean, it's a really cool property, and it's a pretty unique place that we've gotten the permission to literally shut down this public road and turn it into a racetrack without really. I was really surprised how easy it was to get the approvals from the county and the city. They were like, "Yeah, that sounds good." Like, okay, cool.
Welcome to Texas.
Yeah, it was great.
Go.
So we're really looking forward to it. I'm really hoping we can make it a great event and get a lot of people out there.
Absolutely. No, I'm excited for it. I'm going to keep an eye out for any updates, and we'll keep posting them up.
So as far as I'm not even again, we're not saying the name. We're not mentioning it. But as far as the whole situation going on right now, obviously I'm sure you're keeping a very close eye on that, and I'm sure it will factor into your decision on whether, even if possible, like if you're allowed to, whether or not you proceed with it. But kind of is it that you have there's a point of no return that it's a make or break date where you got to make a decision, or how are you something of this size and of how, with as much as you're having to resources and everything that go into it, how and where do you make that decision whether or not to go forward?
Well, we're already kind of planned on scaling it back as it is. We believe we'll be able to do it without. We just don't know if they're going to put any restrictions on the size of the crowds that can come. But I believe I've talked to the racing side of it, I've talked to the car show side of it, and I think we'll have at least the participants there and maybe their crews, and at least be able to do a live stream or something like that to share it that way. If we can't get a big live crowd because of any restrictions, we're planning on having it happen in some way, shape, or form in September. We just don't really know exactly what it's going to look like at this point.
Any big confirmed cars in attendance, or anybody that you can hint at being there?
We've got some really unique cars signed up. We've had a couple of Chevron vintage racers, a couple of Cobras and things like that sign up. We've had guys who've won Pebble Beach and Amelia Island that are committed to bring cars to the Concours that are based here in Texas. So until we have everything shored up, we're actually going to do a series of releases with which vehicles are coming, what the feature vehicles are. My car show director, Greg Riley, he actually runs a local radio show called Garage Deluxe. And it's kind of a fun little local thing here in Texas, and it's a really cool program. But he is a hardcore car show guy. And then my race director, Richard Tomlin, is a vintage racing driver. And I met him down in Mexico doing these type of events down in Mexico a couple years ago.
That's like the real Mexico, not like the Mexico that we go to here for street racing in Kentucky, right?
Yeah, down 150 miles south of Tijuana with no guardrails and an ambulance that doesn't look like it's going to get you to the hospital, Mexico. Yeah.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah, it was. We met him down there, and he's our race director. He's really well connected to the vintage car racing community, and great racing builder. He's got a shop called Apex down in Houston. Built some incredible cars that run in the Chihuahua, that run in the La Carrera Panamericana. So he's been a real resource too. So we've got a really great team put together, and everyone's really excited about making something like this happen. Just because I think it's the type of event a lot of car guys have wanted in the U.S. It just doesn't exist. And we went out thinking we want to build an event that's also accessible. That's the biggest problem. Is if you want to go to Monterey Car Week, you've got to have thousands of dollars now because
or you have to live in Monterey.
Yeah,
I did for a couple of years, and it was very easy because I just so happened to be there.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I went, I was actually part of a film festival. It worked out really well. I got to stay right in downtown because we were basically renting a theater, and the theater had a big apartment.
At the Carmel Film Festival?
No, it was the Automotive Film Festival we did downtown during Car Week. Gosh, it would have been 2016, I think it was.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was a really fun thing. They only did it one year. Adam Carolla was our MC. It was a really fun event. But yeah, we want to make an event that is affordable to come to, because the things that I talked to with a lot of the guys in the industry was, I feel like a lot of the industry is closing off access to people, and in the long run, it's just going to hurt the industry because you don't have that next generation getting to see this stuff in action, getting to have access to this stuff, to get so enthusiastic that one day they say, you know what, I really want to spend my entire life polishing the chrome on a 1920s Cadillac for 17 hours. You know, I mean,
and Brandon and I have talked about this extensively,
yeah,
about the difference between, you know, okay, yeah, you can go and you can see photos or videos on YouTube or photos on Instagram or whatever it is, but being there and hearing and feeling and, you know, just smelling and all the sensations you get from being on site at a motorsport event, you cannot replicate that in any sense of the word. So to have something accessible like that for people, and I love vintage racing personally, it's probably my favorite kind of racing. Like Pittsburgh Vintage Grand Prix is one I want to do this year. If they're still going to have it in July, I'm keeping an eye on that one. But it's such a cool thing to do, to make it accessible for people and to kind of get the younger generation maybe interested in that.
Well, and that's why we wanted to have the motorsport aspect of it. I mean, car shows are dime a dozen, but getting to actually see these vehicles, you know, being used in anger the way they were designed to be used is pretty rare for most people. And that's where I reached out to like the guys from the Historic Racing Society. Like, you guys host these events and races all over Texas, all over the U.S., but
no one pays attention.
Nobody goes to them. There's nobody there. I mean, I went to one at Auto Club Speedway, and you had Jay Leno there, you had Adam Carolla there, you got all the big celebrities, Patrick Dempsey, all of them there with these collection of the most amazing cars in the world. It was like $10 to get in, and I was the only like other spectator like there. Like my friend Leo was there, a couple other guys wandering around, like, oh, I know you. It's like, okay. I mean, there's no marketing side of it to really bring in the lifestyle aspect that I think a lot of these events need, because there's a lot of great events that are happening that just need that extra component, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and also I think, like, you know, as far as, you know, people like to say authentic, right? Like authentic is something that people like to say a lot in 2020, but, you know, I think there's probably something very inauthentic about trying to do anything Goodwood style, even at a NASCAR oval track, right? Like, you know, like, I mean, Auto Club it's a great, I've tracked there. It's a fun place to drive, all that kind of stuff. But, you know, going into lifestyle, right? Like at the end of the day, it's a patch of concrete with some bleachers and, like, you know, really not much else. What I love about what you're talking about doing in Texas is that, like, it's not a racetrack, right? Like it's not a bunch of concrete somewhere. It is somewhere that you will actually go and be able to be immersed in being there and not just be standing in a parking lot at essentially what amounts to an autocross, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is like, if you look at all the old pictures from like the 30s and 40s and 50s, like when they raced in Palm Springs in downtown, or they raced in 17 Mile up in Monterey and all this.
Pebble Beach, yeah.
Yeah, Pebble. I mean, they're racing on public roads. They've just been shut down. There may be some haphazardly placed, you know, tires or, you know, some straw bales,
cones or something. Yeah, exactly.
But there's really no, I mean, it's not like a regular race, and there's just something so romantic and exciting about those images of, you know, a Jaguar, you know, D-type ripping through the trees of a forest and coming around a hairpin turn. It's going to be pretty cool. And the cool thing about this road is it's, again, about 1.5 miles. It's got a nice couple of sweeps and turns in it, and it goes in 90, but it's almost completely shielded in trees. So it's like a tree tunnel. So it's going to make for some incredible, like, YouTube footage for the GoPros. It's going to be like kind of, you know, time traveling a little bit.
Did you have a picture of the MX-5 in that tree tunnel on your Instagram that I saw?
That was a different tree tunnel. We got
different tree tunnel. Okay.
Yeah.
When you said tree tunnel, I was like, oh, I swear I just saw a tree tunnel on your Instagram a few minutes ago, but different tree tunnel.
Yeah, there's quite a few of those around. But yeah, it's going to be a really fun event. And then the other cool thing is the finish line is at a gigantic Native American arrow stuck in the ground, which is the start of the Quaney Parker Trail. There's these arrows that go all over Texas. It's a historical trail. But it's just going to be this great visual of the finish line. It's this gigantic arrow stuck in the ground with a wooden pioneer fort behind it and vintage cabins from the historical area. Some of these cabins are from the late 1700s, early 1800s, old homesteads that they've moved to this historical park. So the fact that they've decided to host us is really, really exciting.
Absolutely. Very cool. I'm excited to hear more. So I'm gonna keep an eye out, like I said.
And so to find that event on Instagram, it's at Groesbeck. That's Groesbeck, Grand Prix spelled out. And then you're at the Gentleman Racer, not gentleman, gentleman racer. And then what's the is there a Instagram for the MMP speed shop?
Yeah, it's just MP Speed Shop, and it'll come if you start searching MP Speed Shop. It should come right up on Instagram as well.
Yeah, so just
very cool. And then all that centralized at he's going to give you if you're following us if you're watching us on our live stream. There it is.
Yeah, so there's the Gross Grand Prix. Boom. And then we'll go to MP Speed. If I could
and then if you go to thegentlemanracer.com, you'll find all the awesome content we were talking about tonight. Mike Satterfield, we really appreciate you stopping by today. Anything else you wanted to plug before we wrap up here?
No, it's great. I had a great time hanging out with you guys. It's such a pleasure hanging out and just kind of chatting and having a good time.
And we didn't argue even too much about electric cars, so that's pretty good.
No, that's pretty shocking.
No. And we kept the Rona in the background, which is great. I'm really happy that we could get away from that for a minute. It's nice to get back to the roots and kind of maybe forget what's going on out there.
Have like a car show. Yeah,
exactly. Totally. Yeah. Well, no, like a garage hang, not a car show, Brandon.
Awesome.
Like a garage hang.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mike.
A garage hang after a car show.
There you go. Thank you, Mike. Much appreciated. Shout out to MP Speed Shop, to the Gentleman Racer, and of course the Grossbeck Grand Prix. Brandon, anything else to take us home?
Yeah. Wash your fucking hands.
As always, right? Thanks again, guys. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Mike. Peace out, people. See ya.